Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. I am your host, Roddykat, and you can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at NewsNerdsNeed on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram.
With Columbia down the way.
And the sound effects you've heard come from none other than our man in Brooklyn, one agent _70 on Twitter and Instagram.
What's up, everybody? It's been a long week, but we are here. Co-hosting from the Borough of Kings.
And you can find this here podcast on the Coast of the Podcast Network at cspn.us.
Do it today.
And you can also find this podcast on your podcast portal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal of the Podcast Network's SoundCloud page.
Make sure to click like, subscribe, and give us all the great 5-star reviews.
Indeed. And you can also find us recording every Thursday night, 9:30ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time, normally on the YouTube channel of of The Click Nation. That's youtube.com/TheClickNation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles.
Again, please click like and subscribe, and make sure to hit the notification button so that you know when we are live broadcasting.
Happy Black History Month, first of all. To get a couple of things out of the way. And actually, I should have said that after the next thing I was going to say, but nevertheless, welcome to the shortest month of the year with some of the biggest history, and also where they dump a lot of books for the occasion some of which that might get lost in the shuffle because of that. But we will probably get to that as this month rolls on. And also, there was something I wanted to mention, I think last week, that I don't think we did. In fact, the last couple of weeks, before we get started, hearts and prayers and all that kind of stuff doesn't really do anything. But nevertheless, condolences to the family of Tyree Nichols and all of those who had been affected by the ballroom shooting in California a couple of weeks back. It's continues to be a hard moment, and things continue to be crazy, and not to go into some of the other talk that's been going around. Fuck the cops, fuck bad cops specifically, no matter what color they are. And just because the people who were the ones when the beating were black doesn't mean to me any less some bullshit cops than any other time anything has happened. So there is that. And no tax, unfortunately, the settlement is coming from taxpayers' pockets and not the police department's budget, which is also a fucked up thing. So, but it is, I guess this is the world we live in. But that being said, and I don't know if I don't think Agent 70 had anything to add on that, unless you do.
Okay. Nah,
we're going.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's all fucked up now.
Basically, like I said. But just to get that out of the way before we get into the actualities of this here podcast, we are going to get into a very brief and non-spoiler recap or impressions of the Bad Batch season 2 episode 6. I know Agent 70 has not seen it yet, so I won't spoil too much for him either. So all I will say is that the Bad Batch kind of go from one situation to another, and there is a callback from mid to later Clone Wars that happens to become a part of the plot. Yeah, that's all I'll say from that. But it was a good episode, I thought. It was kind of brought some things, kind of brought some things home for a character or two, I guess you can say.
It's not there isn't a movie theme, because the last couple of episodes have been, one has been Fast and
I
Furious,
mean,
this
yes,
week's is
you can't.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's not a big spoiler if you say what the movie theme would be.
I mean, you could put it either. Hmm. I mean, realistically, you could put it Return of the Jedi. You could put it with like an Avatar. You could the any
You lost me with Avatar. Are you talking about the blue people, or are you talking about the Arrowhead people?
the blue people, not the not the Airbender, not the better of the two, but I guess yeah, without going too much farther into the way, you can kind of say there's elements of those movies. I'm pretty sure once you see it, you will put out a more. I don't want to say too much more because I don't want, because there is probably a movie or something I could directly say that very much could relate.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, because like even what I'm saying was like, okay, you can kind of see where I'm saying that, but it's not really direct. You know what I'm saying? So,
gotcha.
like I said, that's just to kind of keep you from having any too many notions going into it. But I think you'll like it though.
All right, I will try to watch it tomorrow. I'll start my day tomorrow with the Bad Batch.
Indeed. And with that, we are going to go into the books of the week, starting off with Star Trek number 4.
Yes, surprise, folks. We are starting off with the Star Trek book published by IDW. Issue number 4 is written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, with art by Ramon Rosanas and Oleg Chudakov, colors by Lee Luffridge, and letters by Clayton Cowles. So I will, of course, hit this with broad strokes, while Roddykat goes a little bit deeper into the story and the lore, because we initially had a conversation about this book, and when we were figuring out what to start our reviews with, we settled on this because it's not that we have differing opinions, but we approach this book from different vantage points. We have different approaches to it because of our differing levels of Star Trek knowledge and fandom. So I happen to be a much more casual fan of Star Trek. I am knowledgeable, but not a Trekker or Trekkie, whichever one is supposed to be correct nowadays. I know that it has kind of gone back and forth. I'm familiar with the shows, especially Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. This show takes characters from those two shows, plus the original series, plus Voyager, and introduces new characters into the mix, and takes together several aspects of stories from across the Star Trek histories. And Lansing and Kelly, or Kelly and Lansing, have woven these things together, different aspects of them together, to get to now the 4th issue, where you're starting to see some of the threads that were woven into the story through the first 3 issues kind of coming together. And we're dealing with Ben Sisko's purported alleged godhood, and how that plays into the greater story here, which, as I said, pulls in aspects of other kind of godlike beings we've seen, whatchamacallit, the crystalline entity people, not people, but entities. And we've seen, Q people and whatnot. And all that stuff is a little taxing for me to try to remember how it all fits together. I enjoy the characters. I enjoy the interplay between the characters. I enjoy how they bounce off each other. I actually enjoy the new characters that they've introduced here, because I really feel like their characterizations are pretty strong. I think the greater story and how Sisko is learning to deal with this particular, is at least the supposed to be the central figure in the story, at least so far. I think that part I'm getting a little lost on, but I'm enjoying the character work overall. So ultimately, ultimately, I'm okay with the book so far. It's just that it's losing me just a touch because of my lack of, or at least lesser knowledge of Star Trek lore than Roddykat. And I'll hand it off to him to talk about how much he's enjoying it because of how steeped he is in some of the aspects of the story that Kelly and Lensing are drawing upon. Take it away.
Well, first off, I think Agent 70, while I appreciate it, and it's probably giving my quote unquote knowledge of Star Trek just a little bit more than what it is. Like, don't get me wrong, I have watched a good bit of Star Trek, but like, there's a lot of lore and stuff that I still don't, like, I'm not going to be able to name off just everything and every species and all that other jazz. Even with this book, which is what I'm getting to, is while everything Agent 70 kind of said is true, in the blending of the team and everything, but this is actually more than not a next generation story in a sense. And I say that because of the plot and not necessarily because of the makeup of the team. Like, yeah, they definitely have blended different generations of Star Trek in this book for reasons, but yeah, but and have, like, Q kind of spans a couple of different Star Trek series, and Worf has been in a couple, and so on and so forth. But the underlying plot, in a way, comes largely from TNG, because it has something to do with a race that probably popped up. Well, actually, not when I looked it up. The race that they were kind of talking about and going forth is actually a first season TNG pull. So they basically just kind of was let's pull all this stuff together, but let's kind of wrap it around this and a later TNG stuff with the whole Klingon part about it. Not to go too far into the with what happens in this issue. But,
right, there's a Tasha. I was about to say, hold that thought. There's a Tasha Yar reference, and that clued me in that this was an early pull.
Exactly, and that tells you everything because, as folks may or may not know, Tasha Yar was only a season 1 character, so of TNG. That kind of tells you a little bit about that part. That being said, I did actually enjoy this because, as Agent 70 said, there is a lot of Star Trek, and I said before the show, like, there is a lot of Star Trek to this in the technobabble and, how they're handling things. The whole, Sisko kind of adjusting to this group and them to him is a thing that I kind of wish I could have seen live action, but we know that's never going to happen. Or whether they would have done some sort of crossover, some actual crossover. Like, yes, there have been times where there's been, hey, here's a Star Trek character or two that'll come over to do an episode, in another show, but they never really had a crossover. And this is not necessarily a crossover either. This is like, hey, just gonna putting a bunch of people in a book in that universe together, which is not a bad thing, mind you, but it's still not the crossover that I am thinking about, between like shows or whatnot, like you do with Law and Order or something. But there was also never many shows on that were together. Like, the closest we got is like I was telling Agent 70 earlier, TNG and DS9 were kind of together, were like for like 2 seasons. Voyager came way later at the tail end of DS9 and didn't end, until after that show was gone. So there was no way for that to happen. Now, granted, still could have waited to have some people do some things, but it never quite happened like I kind of wanted it to. That being said, to kind of wrap up this to wrap up the talk of this book, it's still considers to be interesting. You can tell that Lansing and Kelly, Lansing and Kelly are nerds, definitely Trek fans, and that because of the fact that they're pulling in a lot of stuff from this and another, and that's kind of the thing that some folks would want from this, because there's,
I was about to say, it's almost like what you need.
Well, exactly. Yes.
At the end of the day, this is forgive the semi pun, but a universe spanning story.
Mhm.
So ultimately, you kind of need that really deep. And we've said this before when we talk about this series so far, is that you need that really deep knowledge of Star Trek lore to piece together something that is worthy of having all of these luminary Star Trek characters, for the most part luminaries, to come together and work together.
Yeah, but I think at the same time we'll probably differ on this one. I don't. Yeah, they definitely made this book for the folks that are already there, but I think you can still kind of read this if you don't like. I guess you're proving the opposite of that, but
No, I mean the thing is, no, but it cuts both ways,
right,
because what they're doing is that they're introducing new characters for the people who don't necessarily understand or recall like which episodes or what seasons like these particular aspects of the story come from, but the newer characters who are kind of discovering it at the same time that people like I am, uh reading it from their point of view and watching them, reading about them, figuring things out. That's the part that keeps you engaged, no pun intended again. But ultimately, there's definitely like a give and take when it comes to that. And as I said, it cuts both ways. That lore knowledge is great, but if you need too much of it, it cuts against being able to enjoy the story if you don't have it. So
right, and you shouldn't need it, but
ultimately,
yes, right,
right. So ultimately, that's the balancing act that is going to be very hard when it comes to Star Trek. Something like this that really does involve a lot more of the knowledge, the lore knowledge, because of how far reaching and how deep some of the pulls are.
yeah. Um, that being said, this is a curiosity, real quick, and then we can kind of push on from there. That like obviously it's Star Trek story and it's a modern Star Trek story, and one thing you quote unquote would want to have is a Vulcan. We have that here. The now and that is the one of the new characters that is in this book. Not necessarily front and center, but he plays a good part. And you also have an Andorian, which is probably more TOS, which is I guess why that they pulled they made a new character for that. Even though Andorians are still around, but still, so you kind of definitely trying to mix all of that together to do a thing, but it was curious that that they went that far with it. They already had Scotty for TOS type stuff if you really want to put it that far, but they made this other new character for whatever odd reason. Kind of keep it on. So we're going to push on to the next book, which Agent 70 mentioned while we were while we're trying to hash out this OBS issue. And that is Dark Web finale number 1, I assume.
Right. I technically you're supposed to read Venom number 16 ahead of it, so I will just
Okay, yeah, do
jump
that then.
in that and just give you the credits and just let you know that it's not worth reading. I'm kidding. But not by much. It's written by Al Ewing with pencils by Brian Hitch, inks are by Brian Hitch and Andrew Curry, colors by Alex Sinclair, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. So, this is the penultimate chapter of this Dark Web crossover, and uh, Venom, this character that Eddie Brock has now morphed into called Bedlam, and like a junior Venom person. They've redone the Venom character uh, under the watch of Al Ewing, and this is coming right out of King in Black and a lot of that stuff, and they're still developing that particular corner of the Spideyverse / Venomverse, because we know that's a thing that's about to come. So um, ultimately, it's all a matter of your tolerance for this group of characters. If you care about Eddie Brock and the developments that he and his family have undergone since the character's recent renaissance in the wake of the movie and in the pages of the comics, then this is probably interesting for you. Unfortunately for myself, I don't give a damn. So it's just a matter, it's a formality for me to just read it figure out what's going on with the character and see how it affects anything to do with the dark web. Unfortunately, I think the highlight of this issue has to do with Kamala Khan, aka Ms. Marvel. Ms. Marvel takes a character and literally flings him across New York City to land in the Hudson River. And it's just a couple of panels. It's not a gigantic splash page, but it's well done. It's got comedic effect, and I enjoyed that. That was probably the highlight for me of this issue. So, that being said, if you really want that completest experience for Dark Web, God help you, please read Venom number 16. Next up is Dark Web Finale number 1. It's written by Zeb Wells with art by Adam Kubert and Francesco Monterino, and Scott Hanna, with colors by Frank Martin and Guru EFX, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So, Roddykat will jump in on this with his take. I will say that this book and this crossover, limited series as a whole has been a chore for me to read. I understand that there are several developments here that will play some role going forward in the pages of the X books. It's interesting that they are working the Krakoa line of thinking into the interdimensional space by having not just a space for Limbo to remain in New York City, on Earth itself, but to literally create an outpost. And
Right.
that is, along the lines of, the Krakoan lines of thinking, which obviously is an adaptation or an extension of like just regular old diplomacy and having, embassies and or consulates, right? This, I thought, took it way too far. And I objected when I read it. I not that I yelled out objection, but I was just I groaned at the end of it. I was like, oh. So, and I think Roddykat, I'm going to hand it to Roddykat. On that note, I apologize, but that's where I ended. That's how I felt when I ended reading when I finished reading the book.
So, just to go from back to front, I guess I slightly understand Agent 70's objections, but because as him being a native New Yorker, I'm pretty sure that kind of plays at least some small part of this or some big part of this. If you're watching the video version, I think if that has not become clear by his attire, but also I kind of felt a similar way near the end of this book. I'm like, so the answer to this thing is to kind of give them an embassy.
Right.
Which, and then as I thought about it, I was like, wait, so did they do the same thing on Krakoa? Which I don't think so.
Right.
So Limbo's got an embassy on New York, spoiler alert, but which some would argue makes some sense. But also at the same time, like, okay, but they don't have anything like that on Krakoa, I don't think, unless that's going to be established someplace else. I'm like, that seems a little one-sided on this. Given things. That being said, I enjoyed parts of this book. I think Agent 7 and I kind of talked about this last night, even though we didn't record. Everything leading up to the fight was good. Everything probably after the fight is where it starts to kind of to lose me and go down, and that is up and including which is pretty much the end of the book and the establishment that we end up finding out about near the end of this. Like the whole thing with Spidey and Madeline kind of going squaring up on each other was pretty good. The fight itself was actually pretty good. That was probably, if I was going to say anything about Dark Web, probably one of the better moments of the whole thing. And I guess now that you said that about Venom, that one panel that Miss Marvel kind of comes in on, and that explains, I guess, the whole Bedlam thing, because it was like I did not know where that Bedlam thing came
Right.
in from, which I wasn't, because I'm not reading Venom, so that makes sense. And I want to say I could have sworn that Miss Marvel tossing somebody in to the river thing might have happened also in her book, but I'm good because I feel like I've seen that, and I didn't read Venom, but I don't know. So I feel like it might have had been another book. Um, that being said, yeah, I could have gone without Dark Web as a whole.
Yeah,
Like
pretty
which we
much.
kind of knew going into it. Like it didn't feel like it was going to be doing establishing anything universal wide. Although a Limbo having a foothold in New York might be considered a thing that
Right.
would suggest
That's
that.
like, that could allegedly be like a lasting effect, right?
Right.
Another lasting effect is how they have transformed, even though the transformation was not permanent, how they have transformed Ben Riley, right?
Right.
They've turned him, into a different, he's not just a clone. It's a clone that's gone in a vastly different direction. And his girlfriend Janine has absolutely gone in a vastly different direction.
Right.
So ultimately, I guess those are the lasting effects coming out of this crossover. Because of the relatively unique nature of this crossover, because it's between the Spider-Man corner and the X-Men corner of the Marvel universe. That's not something we see regularly. It's just not.
True. Unless it's like some team up, which, and yeah, I guess the last time we saw, well, no, that was all in here. So yeah, it's definitely been a while since we've seen Spidey and the X corner kind of really team up. At least from what I can think, but we read a lot of books, so I'm pretty sure somebody would be like, "No, that happened, like a couple of weeks ago or last year sometimes." So, but if it did, then still kind of recent enough to where it's been a while.
Right.
That being said, though, we can kind of push on to wait. Let me see, maybe one more book before we do the rapid.
Sure.
Um, I'll let you pick Avengers or Moon Knight.
We can do either one, because they're, I believe it or not, I actually rather enjoyed Avengers because it was probably the cleanest written Jason Aaron Avengers book we've gotten in a while, because we're not dealing with like a million characters talking at once, because it's focused on a Loki for the most part.
All right, Avengers 65 it is.
So Avengers number 65 is written by Jason Aaron, with art by Javier Garrón, colors by David Curiel, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. So what I just said still stands, that this issue is probably the cleanest and most easily read of the recent run on Avengers by Jason Aaron, simply because it focuses on the story of, I don't want to spoil everything. I do not want to spoil everything, but it focuses on the story of one particular Loki. And it's not a big stretch. It's not really a spoiler to talk about the fact. It's a fact. It's established that Loki is behind the incarnation, the actual creation of the Avengers, not just in the MCU, folks, but also in the pages of the original Avengers comic. So, knowing that, having that as a story point and as a way to, as a focal point or an access point for the story to revolve around, it makes a lot of sense. And I had called, this character had been a mystery for a little while, but I knew who it was. Like you didn't have to think too hard to figure out who it was. So I'm kind of curious to see where this goes from here. I know this goes for another 2 months. It's only February.
I believe
it's supposed to go
true.
through April, I think, right?
I think that's the case.
Right. So we still have a long way to go when it comes to this Avengers Assemble story. But I actually enjoyed this issue.
Yeah, I can also agree with that. It was definitely a big info dump of an issue, for the most part, which like I said, I'm not that is not a complaint. I'm just saying that it is a thing. So, and I know there are people who were like, "Where's all the action?" Which there is some action in this book, but by and large, this was mostly the info dump on Avengers Prime. You know,
Right.
there is, as I said in my notes, surprise, Avengers Prime is revealed, and he has an MCU project coming up, which all is true. I need to start getting away from doing that, but let's face it, we are in a world where things like that happen more or happening more often than not. There was also a nice little Judy Bloom um, reference in there, which I was like, huh, I don't read Judy Bloom, but I recognized it. So good on Jerry Sanaran if that was intentional for putting that in there. But yeah, it's leading up to the fact that, hey, you know, Aaron is you know, is basically going to try to end this book with a bang, off the giants of shoulders like Hickman's run of Avengers. So we got Avengers upon Avengers upon Avengers upon multiverse upon Avengers, and the like. Also, hence you could also kind of tie into the MCU, but you know, to a certain degree. But yeah, enjoyed it. Enjoyed the issue. Now that I'm caught up on it, I can safely say, you know, I'm like, okay, some of that was some good reading. Some of it that was unnecessary, but
Right. You see
I'm
my
glad we're here
point,
now.
right? Now that you're
Right.
caught up,
Right.
right? You see how this is, you know, like what I was saying right at the top of the discussion on this issue is that this was actually the easier, kind of more direct read of many of the several of the recent issues.
So, and I guess before we even get to the end of, you know, whatever the story is, definitely some of it's going to be easier to. All right,
So
so
are we
we're
going
back.
rapid?
Yeah, let's do that before this thing bed again.
All right, I'm gonna spin this up. Rapid fire review time, folks. Mm-mm-mm.
I ain't got time to bleed.
All right, first up is Captain America Sentinel of Liberty number 9. Did you read this?
Yes.
Okay, it's written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, with art by Carmen Carnero, colors by Nolan Woodard, and letters by our favorite lettering paisan, VC's Joe Caramagna. So, the invaders are reborn in a different format. I'm still not sold on Carmen Carnero's art style. I'm also not sold on Kelly and Lansing's take on Captain America right now. It doesn't seem even to me. There's just, you know, I guess there's a certain aspect of Steve Rogers' character that they're looking to enhance or exploit or explore. That's 3 words with the letter E. That I'm not comfortable with right now. I'm not comfortable with their approach. That's just, you know, that's just my personal take. You may, you know, your mileage may vary on that. Ultimately, I see the bigger picture that they're looking to create. Obviously, we still have a long way to go with them revealing what that is. Obviously, there is a tease here that a major character from Captain America's Rogues Gallery has been, let's say, pushed in a different direction by some of the newer villains that have been introduced in this arc. And that's where we end the issue. Please add your thoughts, Roddykat.
I don't really have much to say on that front, because I mean, you are probably a bigger Captain America fan than I am. So I'm sure, you know, you have read some of the more influential stuff than I have. There've definitely been people that's been taking some liberties with Steve's character of late, as we've seen in other books. So I can kind of agree with that. And in this case, it's probably the case, but maybe I haven't, you know, looked that closely into it.
Right.
outside of that, yeah, I'm not sure. I know the only other thing I can say is like, yeah, we definitely know they're pushing towards that event thing, the Captain America
Mhm.
event thing that they're coming. So I guess the sooner that gets here and they kind of get to where they're trying to get to, the better this will probably read.
Right.
That's pretty much
Right.
all I got to say about it.
All right, next up is Miles Morales Spider-Man #3, I think. Roddykat read this. It's written by Cody Ziegler with art by Federico Vicentini, colors by Brian Valenza, and letters by VC's Corey Petit. This is another book that Roddykat and I discussed prior to the show's recording. And I actually enjoyed this book up until the end. So it has elements, several parts of the story has elements that resonate in real world issues, like very much real world New York City Department of Education issues. And I appreciated that, even though obviously I am not part of that education system any longer, but I know that, if you just read the news or if you have friends who have kids old enough to go to school and to be part of dealing with some of the current ways that the education system is trying to promote fairness and diversity and um doing more to integrate not just racially but also intellectually, that there are some positives and negatives to some of the changes in the way uh, uh, students are assigned to schools. And that's a very real issue in the real world. And that part of that is touched upon here. And it's made it's made to be an interesting story point and a plot point. But ultimately, it all falls flat when you get to the name of the new villain that's been introduced. And again, groans. That was my reaction. How about you?
I mean, I agree with you to the point. It definitely was a good read up until the end, like you said. But actually, it kind of fell as we discussed earlier. It kind of felt a little before that because yes, while the initial reasoning for the adversary coming after Miles is steeped in some real world things, there's part of that that still kind of lost me on it because like if they had gone and we had talked before like I said we talked before the start of the program, if they had kept, well, this is my thinking, if they kept to a certain way or did it a little bit different like Age of 70 said prior, you know, would make way more sense in her
Right.
to her
We got into
reasonings.
actual hold that thought. It got into actual like factual differences or story differences that, had they been applied, would have made the story much more compelling. But
Exactly.
because of the way the way that Ziegler chose to portray this, and to create this like tension, right? Like the whole point of the tension, the whole point of the character, the antagonist's viewpoint, and how they get to that viewpoint just makes less sense than it would if they had just kind of stuck to like some of the more real world aspects to it. It's like this was definitely one, but I feel like this was the wrong one to choose. I'm sorry.
Right.
Go ahead.
And no, and it makes even less sense when after after the antagonist mentions, you know, her problem, someone asks the real question in, okay, well, why are you not doing this instead of that? And then the character just goes on and kind of continues to justify, what they're doing. I'm like, and that's where it kind of gets lost. I'm like, yeah, somebody asked the question that needed to be asked, and then they're like, well, here's how we're justifying it, and it just kind of lost me there. Outside of that, the issue was good.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought, that there are certain parts of it that were less uh Ziegler trying to jam modern slang down our throats.
I
But
wouldn't say jam, but sure, okay.
there was what was it? The previous issue and the issue before that, I was like, oh.
He's just repping his
But that's
younginess
also
and
us
the
being old.
modern day
Yeah.
slang. Come on, Miles is young, so it makes some sort of sense. Miles will be long enough. Now, granted, and especially in that last issue, Misty Knight saying some of that stuff was a little bit off, but yeah, but Miles saying it, I was with it. So I'm kind of with you.
Right. I think that's what I was getting at.
Right.
Just it wasn't just Miles saying it, but to have Misty say it also, it was a
Right.
little off-putting. Alrighty, last but not least is Moon Knight number 20. It's written by Jed McKay with art by Alessandro, at least on the Prime story, the first story, with art by Alessandro Capuccio and colors by Rochelle Rosenberg. The backup story, or second story, is written by Danny Lore with art by Ray Anthony Height and inks by LeBeau Underwood and Scott Hanna. Colors are on the second story also by Rochelle Rosenberg. Letters throughout the issue are by VC's Corey Petit. So the first story by McKay continues the story of Moon Knight's time as head of the Midnight Mission, but it seems like some of his foes are going after Moon Knight's previous acquaintances and like old network of support, and he is looking to save them, and he's only partially successful. And this is one of those times when I compare this to that Star Trek conversation we had, where you don't necessarily need to have been reading every single page of Moon Knight to be able to understand and appreciate this issue, because all of these characters are pre-existing characters that are introduced and killed to some extent, but you don't necessarily need to have known when they first or last appeared in a Moon Knight comic book. But of course, editorial is kind enough to put in a little blurb that says these characters were, at least seen in a group form in like, what was it, like Moon Knight number 60 or something like that?
Yeah, Mark Spector Moon Knight from back in the 90s.
Right. So ultimately, I appreciated that.
Yeah.
So it's, I really like what McKay is doing with Moon Knight. It's unhinged. I still think that he is definitely skirting, or at least walking a very fine line when it comes to dealing with the it's not multiple personality disorder, it is dissociative identity disorder, right? He's very much walking a fine line with stuff like that. The backup story I appreciate because it has elements of a character who obviously should play a role in some of what Moon Knight is doing nowadays, especially with let's just say a vampire playing a prominent role in the Moon Knight book. Also, given that we know that Moon Knight is definitely a mantle identity that is often taken on by numerous people, and it doesn't have to be something that is passed on, generation after generation. Sometimes it's far more recent than that, which is something that we find out here.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, I appreciated this. It's definitely written with an eye towards it being Black History Month, and I just appreciated that it was a nice little story that focused on Blade and an aspect of New York City history, with a focus on a part of Manhattan that I always forget is part of Manhattan. And I have dear friends that have lived up there, and I never visited because it is dumb far from where I live. And it's not even in the Bronx, it's still in Manhattan technically. So I will say that I enjoyed that backup story because I thought it was really well told, and I think I've just gotten more comfortable with the idea, obviously in Avengers and in recent runs of Moon Knight, that it's been firmly established that Moon Knight is a mantle that is passed on.
Right. We definitely got to look. So are you finished actually?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of cap off Moon Knight because I also read that and going to the next book, which is actually slightly related to the backup story, because I did like the fact that we did get to see, like I just said, it was like an earlier fist of Khonshu meeting the Daywalker, but also something that seemingly is going to tie into the current day Moon Knight dealing with an ally of theirs, or helping with an ally of theirs, I suppose. Um, and I don't. Well, I'm going to assume this. Like, while what Agent Seven has said about the backup story kind of being kind of tied to Black History Month, while that is also the case, but it is also the case that it is likely tied to the book I'm about to talk about right now, which is Bloodline, Daughter of Blade #1, which was also written by Danny Lore, but also with art by Karen S. Darbo, color artist Chris Peter, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino. Now, granted, there's no actual direct tie between the two books outside of the fact that, spoiler alert, Blade does show up in both of these issues in different. But this particular issue is, we've been hearing that, Blade's got a daughter for a while, and this book should have been, yeah. Bloodline, Daughter of Blade, new issue came out this week. I already talked about the creative team. This book kind of, well, it has a flashback that gives you a little bit more info on a certain aspect of Brielle's life, but then cuts to the present, and I believe takes after, was it the Marvel Voices issue? Or there was or was it there was a issue around Halloween that had Brielle in, and I believe it wasn't Tales for the Crypt, but I can't remember what it was, but it basically was a Halloween, like, anthology story that had Moon Knight and some other folks with 3-page stories. One of them was Brielle's. Brielle also started out in a Marvel's Voices book from last year, if I'm not mistaken. So that was her actual introduction, and then we've seen her a couple of times since then, and now into her own book. But yeah, she's still kind of learning the ropes. She came to basically found out that her mom kind of knows more than she let on. Actually, they found out something that neither one of them didn't know about each other. But now that that's out in the open, kind of setting course to a potential meeting, at least if the end is to be believed, going to be a meeting with Blade, since she is the daughter of Blade. But it was a good issue, I thought, in reading this. It was, I've been very curious as to how they were going to handle, Blade having a daughter, because this is something we hadn't heard about up until fairly, recent. So we kind of get a little bit of that, but we don't necessarily get the whole thing, which is not necessarily saying that we actually need. There was one part of me reading that Moon Knight book before I read this book had me thinking, I was like, wait, is this Blade's mom? But it's not. I mean, not Blade's mom. Is this Brielle's mom, who just so happens to be an aspect of, who happened to have been a Moon Knight around the time of Blade coming around.
That's an interesting thought.
But it's not. It's not, because it's two different names, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, they actually reveal it in this issue?
The Moon Knight issue gave, at the very least, gave the Moon Knight the Moon Knight's first name, and if I'm not mistaken, it is not the same as here. I might be slightly wrong, because I can't remember if the mom's first name was actually put in this book or not.
Got it.
Because anybody who's talked to her either call her mom or Mrs. Whatever her name is, and then it's not Brooks. But so if that there still could be something to that, but I'm slightly doubting it. That being said, if you are of any interest in this, you should check it out, because, like I said, it was a pretty good read that I thought. Some possibly could say that this kind of could it's not doesn't read like all ages, but you can kind of see it has some of that in there. And that's not a knock on the book, but uh just something I was thinking about at the while I was reading this. So, but it, like I said, it reads fine. You'll enjoy it. But since this is rapid fire and this is having a time, we should move on to Flawed number 5 of 6. And the creative team on this book is Chuck Brown is the writer, art by Prenzi, letters by Becca Carey. So this is the penultimate issue of this mini series. As I said, things are looks like to be starting to go to a head going into the last issue. Seems also to be going by kind of fast. I guess it depends on how you read it, but let's just say parties are going to pretty much meet with each other going into the end of the book, including a new addition to one side of the party because they have beef with someone on the other side, without giving too much away. But I've been enjoying reading this book since it came out, and hoping the last issue does well and bringing it on in, sticks the landing, as it were. Next book is Magic the Gathering number 23, written by Jed MacKay. No, that was it. Okay, never mind. Written by Jed MacKay and Rich Dueck, which it seems to me like Jed MacKay. I don't have any knowledge of this, but given that Jed MacKay's book was, Jed MacKay's name was coming first, and in this case, the co-writer Rich Dueck, his name is first with Jed MacKay also, and this is being illustrated by Jacques Salomon, and colors by Ariana Carnsani, and letters by Ed Dushire. The only reason why I mentioned that, I don't know, we know, Jed MacKay's already got a few books under going on right now, and he's about to get Avengers. So I don't know, whether he's handing this book over to Richard Dueck or not. And it doesn't matter whether, because he might stick to, might be sticking to it and just kind of giving his input, or even writing an issue or two. It's not saying he can't do both, but it's just weird that now that the names have switched places, that feels like it's kind of they might be changing much they're into this, they're dealing with this book. But regardless, we get a flashback about a couple of the big baddies of this universe, and also wrapped in a tale of another planeswalker that is brought up here, and going into the plot of what's been going on, in that there's this other planeswalker who's trying to revive her homeland, and is trying to do it by any means necessary. And in this case, she seems to have blackmailed someone into making a Genesis device, if you know your Star Trek lore, to help in doing so. But also maybe getting played at the same time, if pages in this book are any or at least the last page of this book is in the indication. But we shall see how that goes. Nice. In the next issue. Next up, which was actually a kind of surprise to me, but a welcome surprise nonetheless, even though this is one of those books that, again, probably could have come out anytime during the course of this year, but they chose to do it now. Star Wars Sign of Starros #1. Written by Justine Ireland, art by Perry Perez, color artist J. David Ramos, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So yes, if you are into the know of the Star Wars books, that's going to happen also. So,
there's a slip.
Yeah, that's going to happen. But Sign of Starros was a breakout character personally, from the first volume of Star Wars books, and happily has still been around for a good minute since then, and even so far in being in the pages of kind of being a secondary character in the pages of Dr. Aphra, most notably and currently. Um, Now, granted, I have not been on top of that book, so I'm not sure what's fully going on, but I do know she's in it. That being said, it seems as though um, Sana had to take a break from whatever's going on over there, which is why she's getting this book. Um, well, not why she's getting book, which is pretty much continuing her tales in this book, as is said. Well, before going into anything, I guess this is saying like, hey, you might want to, you know, you probably already know what's going on in Afro's book, if you're picking this up, or not. But I just so happened to see this out there, and I did not know that she was getting a book run until like a week or two ago. But that being said, is a potential click of the week for me. But Sana, in need of a break, kind of tries to get away from things for a little bit, and I guess go back to some family, go back to check up on her family, and while when she does that, comes to find out that her family is some has got some things going on with it either, and she's not getting a break because it's some definitely action going on that she gets pulled into uh by the end of this book. But yeah, I would safely say if you like the character of Sana Starros, I think you might want to check this book out. And please check this book out because, like I said, with everything else that's coming out, the books like this is going to need every eyeball in on it. I don't know if this is. It seems like it's going to be an ongoing because I haven't seen anything said it was a miniseries, but I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, because I just came across knowing that this book was been coming out fairly recent. But I like what I've read so far. Next book is Scarlet Witch #2, which is written by Steve Orlando with art by Sarah Pacelli, with ink assistance by Elisabetta D'Amico, and colors by Matthew Wilson, with letters by BC's Corey Pettit. So there's actually two stories here. There's a story, there's a backup story. The main story is having to deal with the fact that Viv Vision has come to Scarlet Witch for some help because she's been having these nightmares of the night. And that may or may not give you a hint to who might be a part of it, except for not directly that, I will say. But the Wanda goes and help her out, and they even kind of bond a little bit because if you did not know, Viv Vision's mom was based off the brain patterns of Wanda. So there is still that weird Vision family connection going on there that they dress a little bit of in the course of the story. The backup story, as I was telling Agent 70, seems to be kind of an end cap to a part of the trial of Magneto, and it deals with I should say Wanda and Storm kind of team up on a thing that is related to that. That's all I'll say about that. That's I think that is a thing worth reading and not me kind of going into spoiling. So, but it was a good little mini story there, and kind of touching away the main story was so also. I believe I said this was also another potential click of the week for me. There is that. Next book is Wakanda #5, which is of 5 of this miniseries, and this is excuse me. This was the main story was written by Brandon Thomas with art by Jose Luis, inks by Keith Champagne, and color artist Andrew Dalhouse. The backup story, which is the history of the Black Panthers, was written by Evan Narcis, art by Nacho Bustos, color artist Jordi Berlaire, and letters by VC's Joe Sabino, doing the whole thing. So this is a Koye story, most importantly. It kind of ties back to the first issue of Wakanda in a way, in that she's investigating events that happened there. She also has, I guess she's also using this as a teachable moment for her niece, who apparently wants to become a Dora. Um, and so there is some of that kind of going through here. But at the end of this, um, interestingly enough, seemed like it should come up somewhere else. The last book for me is called DC Power Celebration #1. One shot anthology book in for Black History Month with well, I'm not don't know all of the creative teams, but I know they're mostly Black creative team writers. Definitely, I can safely say, but like I said, the rest of the people, I'm not sure. Regardless, but there are a bunch of Black characters that have stories in here, and there are also a couple of stories that are reprinted from someplace else. The last two specifically. Let's see. I guess I can quickly kind of go through. No, it's a lot of names. I'm not gonna do that. Never mind. But there's
I know there's a lot of stories.
There's a lot of stories. I mean, I have the names here, but it's a lot of folks with this book, including the aforementioned Evan Narcissus, who writes the first story. But I will tell you that speaking of the stories, the characters that the stories about. The first one is Amazing Man. The second one is Black Lightning. The third one is Queen Nubia and Bumblebee. The fourth one is John Stewart, Green Lantern, with Kelly Quintella kind of there also, but it's mostly about John Stewart. The fifth story is Aquaman, which is Calderon, and Kid Flash, Wallace West. Excuse me. Sixth one story is Cyborg, Cyborg story. The seventh story is a Vixen and Batwing story, which apparently, I guess they're going to be a couple now, which is weird because I've seen some people talking about that online, and that part is probably the most amusing part about it for me. The eighth one is Batman, which is Jace Fox, and that is a reprint from Batman Black and White #2, Volume 2, #3. And the last story is a reprint from Far Sector #5, which has to do with, of course, the Green Lantern Sojourner Merlin. So, I read most of these, with the exception of, I didn't read. I kind of skimmed the last one because I've read Far Sector when it actually came out, so I didn't feel it necessary to reread that thing since it's a reprint. But everything else, I pretty much read, and it's some good stuff. I know we have another panel mate who's not here who also seemingly liked it, but we will talk about that in a moment. And that, folks, is it for me.
All righty, folks. Clicks of the week.
I didn't even get the timestamp because of this stupid thing going on. So yeah, we got one click from Tim, which was the aforementioned DC Power Celebration #1. He didn't really say anything else about it, but he definitely gave that as his click. So that's cool. And we didn't get anything from Dirt, excuse me.
I think so. Do you have something on tap?
I got potentials, but I don't have. I haven't nailed down my pick yet.
Gotcha. That's.
I
mean, I have a couple of candidates. Nothing really jumped out at me. Like I said, I actually enjoyed reading Miles up until the end.
Yeah.
I'll say that I did enjoy reading Moon Knight. Even though it, like we're dealing with characters that none of us really have any sort of attachment to. I could care less. I could not care less. That's the proper phrase. I could not care less about what happened in Venom. I think what I'm going to go with is, you know, the book I gave the most praise to, and that is Avengers number 65.
Okay.
That will be my click of the week choice this week.
Okay. And of course, some strange reason I did not. We talked about that. Well, you talked about that at the start of your collection. I mean, your rapids, right?
What's that?
You Avengers.
Avengers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just because I'm making the list of this while I was going on, but apparently I must have missed.
Yeah, because you didn't read it this week, right?
Yeah, I did. Mm-hmm.
But you did, yeah. So, but we discussed it. You know, we
We did.
both discussed it during rapid fire. So
Right. So, but I'm trying to remember where I put it. I'll just have to.
yeah, it was at the. I was about to say it was pretty much near the top because alphabetically it comes near the. It's at the beginning. So.
Right. So yeah, like I said, I'll suss that out later. But for myself, so we kind of keep this going. It's probably between the Starros book, Scarlet Witch, and probably that DC Power book, because there was actually some pretty good stories that, but I think, I mean, and the Bloodline book was actually pretty good too, as well as Moon Knight. Star Trek, continues to be what it is. I'm enjoying that. I haven't read it. I can safely say, with the exception of Miles, whatever happened at the end of Miles, I can safely say, well, I guess, and the way Dark Web ended, I can safely say, with those exceptions, didn't read a bad book this week. So not too many weeks that you can say that. Like, it's either going to be some good stuff, some bad stuff, or just middling. So, but for myself, I think I'm actually going to go with Star Wars Starros. No, Starros.
I thought you were gonna go Star Trek, to be honest.
Like I said, I did enjoy it for certain. But no, there were things in that Son of Star Wars books was like, huh, okay, that's interesting. That has me looking forward to it, more, to say the least. Because I like that character a lot, and while I hadn't kept up with Afra, um, I'm glad to see that they're doing more with that character. So wouldn't mind seeing the character, show up live action and or animated, one or two or both at some point. So that being said, those are our clicks of the week. We are going to go into the news section, but first an ad read.
Our first ad read of the night, which I did not tell Roddykat about, but it's fairly predictable. It's one of a few. Blue Apron's meal delivery service has fresh ingredients and incredible recipes delivered weekly to your door. Skip the grocery store and make incredible meals at home with Blue Apron, always shipped free right to your home. Especially on a night like this, where it's cold outside, it's nice to have some food in the house that you can quickly put together for a meal. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can get $30 off your first Blue Apron order. To place your first order with $30 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us. That's cspn.us. Then click on the Keep Our Podcasts free link at the top of the page. From there, scroll down to the Blue Apron link and sign up for your first order. Blue Apron through cspn.us. Do it today. Now we get into the news.
Oh, there was something about that Moon Knight book I totally forgot to mention. He had a Batman moment.
Oh, with the gliding cape?
That too, but no, it was something he said. That basically sounded like,
I am the knight.
so I got a kick out of that.
Yeah. Like I am the ghost in the dream or something like that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, they gave him a bat. They gave him another. They gave him a Batman moment. I was I was tickled by that.
I thought the obvious Batman moment was, wait, hold on, I'm not comfortable with this gliding cape thing.
There was that also.
I
Yes,
laughed at
what
that. I
Jake
was
was
like,
talking
okay,
about.
that was good.
Right. But again, those are, and that was also another MCU thing with them like talking to the other aspects of themselves. But anyway, cinematic news. We start out with as we do about this time with apparently, according to Nielsen, the Eternals was the most viewed Marvel movie in 2022, it seems.
That
So
kind of makes sense. They didn't say most popular, but most viewed.
right. Which I think I saw Kumail Nanjiani. No, it wasn't. Was it Kumail Nanjiani, or it was either him or no, it was the other dude that played Fastos was out there saying, well, around the time this came out, it was like, yeah, something. I can't
That's
remember what
Brian
exactly
Tyree
said.
Henry, right?
Huh?
Brian Tyree Henry, right?
Wait, that is Fastos. No, not. It wasn't him. It was I was about to say, no, it's a dude that looked like he puts me in mind of the dude that's playing the Flash. Uh um Ezra Miller, but I don't want to put that on.
The guy that played Druid.
Yeah, Druid. Thank you. I couldn't remember his character's name. It wasn't Fastos, it was Druid. Yeah, but I think he was out there kind of saying something around the time this came out.
Keown, I think it is. Is it Keown?
It's Barry Keogh or Keown, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But and I think I saw this like after that because I was wondering what brought that up. Regardless, so apparently, like I said, according to Nielsen, 236 billion minutes of Eternals had been viewed in 2022, making it the 13th most streamed film of the year. There's other Disney films that have also, been had a lot of views, also including Encanto, Turning Red, Moana, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to go through this whole list, but a bunch of ones that are probably notable for one reason or another. It just so happens that Eternals kind of was the one that was on top of all of that. Then it goes into Rotten Tomato score, which y'all know I don't give a damn about, but ridiculous. But yeah, there was a lot of people rewatch that movie or whatever skips. Which I guess I'll go so far as to say that, hey, guess what? Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, as of the 1st, is out there on Disney Plus, so you can watch that to your heart's content, also, or heartbreak.
Yes, coincidentally. Let's just say coincidentally in time for Black History Month.
Oh, I don't think that was a coincidence at all. I think you are absolutely
no.
right.
I mean, I think I was about to say I say that firmly, tongue in cheek, folks.
Right. With the physical version actually is going to come out in a couple of weeks also. So,
all right.
Next up, though.
Speaking of Wakanda Forever, a deleted scene from the movie reveals how Okoye almost became, spoiler alert, Queen of Wakanda. That's interesting. So the deleted scene was actually released via IGN, and it reveals that Okoye's arc could have taken a completely different direction. So that's interesting. I have not watched it.
Yeah, I didn't watch it either. Because also, like, if I end up rewatching Wakanda Forever again, I will probably do so, or I'll probably just take a look at the deleted scenes, just kind of see what's in there. But I haven't as yet. Apparently, the site can't be. Oh, there we go. Now you want to pop up. All right. So there was a report that this Flash alum, whose name is Jonah Xiao, who played Rainbow Rider 2.0 in Flash, is reported to have a Marvel project for Disney Plus. This again, like I said, is per some rumor site that folks like to use currently. It says here that it's simply listed as NDA Marvel project according to this site. So know what an NDA is. And plus, the snipers were already going to be out for any Marvel project. So there you go. if anything comes up with this, I'm sure we will definitely let you all know when we find out more. Next up.
Alrighty, next up. So anyone who is learned in the ways of the Force has a shot at becoming a contestant on Wheel of Fortune. Why would you go on Wheel of Fortune? Go on Jeopardy. I know you can earn more money on Wheel of Fortune, but you can get there to be part of a special Star Wars Week event. The classic word puzzle game show is now accepting applications to appear in a round of Star Wars themed challenges. Wheel of Fortune's official site provides a form that fans can complete and submit for a chance to spin and win cash, Disney vacations, and restore order to the alphabet. Boy.
You know
Wheel
what?
of Fortune is searching specifically for major Star Wars fans for the theme week. Okay.
I'm glad the person who wrote this article had fun with it because, you know, good on them for that part. But I'm kind of with you on it. It was like, yeah, Jeopardy would have been a way better fit for trivia purposes. Like, it's Wheel of Fortune. You just guess the letter and there's already a cipher for that in a way. I think I jokingly said on Twitter, I was like, you know what? If I don't see anybody force pushing the wheel, then this is bullshit.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this says when this thing is going to happen, but regardless, hey, there you go.
Yeah, I was
Next
about
up.
to say I don't know if I've watched a full episode or any part of Wheel of Fortune on purpose in a long time.
I know I haven't. So yeah, I'm weirdly slightly surprised it's still on, but in a way, kind of not. But anyway, apparently there's I should have moved this. I needed to, but apparently there is a potential new Tomb Raider series in the works at Amazon with Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who I believe was or will be in that next Indiana Jones movie also.
Jones.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I know that name. I've heard that name here and there for other like Fleabag and other things, but I don't think I've ever watched anything with her in it that I remember. But regardless, and also Tomb Raider based off of the game, you know. Yeah, this article does mention the Indiana Jones thing. But there's no other thing than that than just it could be a thing that's in talks. Nothing has been concrete. They already have another team. I think they're also still trying to get another Tomb Raider book with possibly that last girl who played her, who is, you're watching the video version, whatever there is of it. You can see in the thing. But yeah, we'll see if it happens. Next up.
Just give me a sec. I have to reload our show notes.
Mhm.
Moment. Scrolling. Get that GD scrolling. Watch the show notes scrolling. Rawhide. All right. Let's see here. Archer Star confirms the recording has begun for season 14. The long-running animated spy sitcom Archer is in production on season 14. A member of its main voice cast has confirmed. All right. Listen, I've never really watched that show, but I understand it's funny, so I'm happy for all of the fans of the show.
I've liked what I've watched of Archer, which is probably a good 6 or 7 seasons. So I didn't know, I knew it was still going, but I haven't seen it since said 6 or 7 seasons. So again, surprised that it's still going, but like you said, good on them for it. And yeah, it's a pretty decent show. It's a pretty good show. I thought. I figured it might start getting longer than 2 by now, especially after the whole ISIS thing, but they've gone away from that also. Anyway, Paramount Plus and Showtime become, hold your horses, folks, Paramount Plus with Showtime. That's it.
Seriously?
Yeah. So the funny part about it is, I don't know if anybody saw that Hulu commercial where it was like they're trying to workshop names for new Hulu's new subscription tier or whatever the case may be. This doesn't feel any better than what they jokingly came up there. So that's funny. Also, I thought Paramount Plus and Showtime were already kind of put together, because last time I even checked out Paramount Plus, I could have sworn I've seen some Showtime stuff on there. But nevertheless, Paramount confirmed the change in a Twitter post, noting that the merger is the quote next natural step in our evolution. The company is also planning to carry over select original content from Paramount Plus to the TV network, which could include shows like Halo and Yellowstone spinoff 1920. And I'm pretty sure there's probably going to be a price hike that is very much unwarranted at some point. Next up.
All righty. So, the latest trailer for the final season of Picard has brought the show to its apparently inevitable Star Trek The Next Generation reunion plotline. So, the season's story appears to kick off with a distress call from Picard's old flame and former Chief Medical Officer Beverly Crusher. But of course, there are galaxy wide stakes here as well. Okay.
I take it you didn't watch the trailer?
I have not.
It's a pretty good trailer. It does kind of.
Whoa! Picard season 3. I was just scanning through this. Hold that thought. Picard season 3 will premiere on Paramount Plus on February 16th, running for 10 weeks.
Yes,
Whoa! That's literally the week of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
And also going to be the last season of Star Trek Picard. So
you were saying about the trailer. Sorry to interrupt.
No. The trailer kind of can catch you in the feels a little bit. Because it was like, oh man, it's next generation, a lot of the next generation folks back together again, and this and that and other. Just check it out if you get a chance.
Cool.
Next up, though, some sad news. Oh, actually, that was something else I forgot to mention. Rest in peace to Cindy Williams, Shirley of Laverne and Shirley, who also passed recently. Yes. But Annie Wershing, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right.
Yes, the actress who's younger than both myself and Roddykat.
This is true. Passed away at 45.
I was very sad to hear that.
Yes. Star Trek fans actually may know her notably as the most recent iteration of the Borg Queen.
Yes.
From Star Trek Picard. Apparently she was also in 24 and a whole bunch of other things, but that's, for the stuff that's germane to what we're talking about. There is that, and apparently it was once again fuck cancer, because that was the cause of death, complications therein. So rest in peace. And there was a lot of outpouring on Twitter about that. Apparently she's been a lot of things according to this. So
she's been active, and like I said, she's on the younger side. Right. So that is just awful news. Awful news.
Okay, yeah, she was also mocap for Last of Us, which
is in the news obviously nowadays.
So, and
I was about to say, have you watched any of it yet?
No. Like I said, I don't really care too much too. So I hear it's good though.
No, I was about to say the most recent episode has garnered rave reviews.
I know. I've seen.
It's not. What I was going to say, it's not necessarily sticking to the story of the video game, but it expands on it and doesn't necessarily change too much of the story of the video game. So I've heard people on podcasts mostly say that they appreciate that the expansion of the story in this case.
Right. Yeah, because the two characters that were involved, they kind of expand on that. And apparently I keep forgetting that that dude whose name is escaping me now is was married to Megan Mullally from Will and Grace.
Nick Offerman, yeah. Did they get a divorce?
No. But I keep forgetting that they were actually married.
I was like, oh, okay.
Oh no. Yeah, meaning was as in I didn't know that.
I gotcha. That they are. I gotcha.
Right. So anyway, next story.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, wait a second. You as far as totally transmuted that story into something else. I was like, what?
No.
All right. In more sad news, Lisa Loring, the actor who played the original Wednesday Addams, has passed away at the age of 64 years old. Loring brought Wednesday Addams to life in the first live action adaptation of the Addams Family.
Yeah, it's been a thing. For a second I thought she was related to another Loring that I'm thinking about, but I don't think so. But we're not going to go into all of that. Next up, though, Lex Luthor actor John Cryer, which is a sentence I thought I would never never say, apparently pitched a Legion of Doom series to Warner Brothers. As some folks may know, John Cryer is playing Lex in the Arrowverse version of Lex Luthor for the Superman and Lois show, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think that's the case. But and I still haven't checked out his portrayal of it, which is still kind of fun to me. Ducky is playing Lex Luthor. So, but regardless, like I said, he pitched a Legion of Doom show, and it sounds like it didn't it didn't go anywhere. And the quote is, "I wasn't meant to be, I guess." And I think it looks like he pitched it after that last crisis that they have in the Arrowverse. There you go. Next up,
Gotham Knights, the imminently debuting teen superhero series for the CW, starring, among others, Supernatural's Misha Collins, is already shooting its first season finale. Okay.
oh, I put this the wrong way. That makes sense. That over that. So yeah, I guess that's it got one season in the can already. So yes, based on the video game that is out already, which I still haven't played, it's getting mixed reviews on. But next up, apparently that Keanu Reeves led Constantine 2 movie that was that has been announced already. Keanu wanted it really bad that he asked Warner Brothers every year until they said yes, apparently. So I still haven't seen the first Constantine. Have you seen it?
No, actually.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's still on HBO Max. But at least the last time I checked, and I know a lot of people like that version of Constantine. But yeah, I haven't said it, but I think a lot of people like it because I know. Maybe whether the movie was actually good or not, let's be real. I think it's mostly because it was a young Keanu Reeves. So,
Or younger.
a younger, yeah, exactly. Because yeah, he still looks,
All righty, folks, in this week's major news, James Gunn has revealed he and Peter Safran's DC Universe plans, 10 movies and shows beginning in 2025. In terms of movies, there is Superman Legacy. Gunn is currently writing the screenplay, and Safran is hopeful the filmmaker will also direct the DC movie set to come out on July 11th, 2025. Superman Legacy will not be an origin story, but will focus on Clark's struggle to balance his superhero life with his human one. The story will also explore Superman being a beacon of kindness in a world that believes kindness is old-fashioned. My understanding is that this is a younger Superman. The Authority. Gunn is currently outlining the film, which will be based on Wildstorm characters. The DC imprint will be brought into the main universe with the live-action movie. According to DC Studios, The Authority explores anti-heroes who have good intentions while having to go to extreme, due to how broken the world is. Next is The Brave and the Bold. This will be a Batman and Robin story with a new star set to play the Dark Knight. Robert Pattinson and Ben Affleck will, therefore, not be starring in this film. Based on Grant Morrison's Batman run, the story sees Bruce discovering that Damian Wayne is his son. Thought to be an assassin, Bruce must now raise Damian under his wing. The Brave and the Bold will also feature other members of the Bat family. It was not revealed if they have decided which actors will play them, or if DC Studios will even use stars that have been used previously. Next is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. The Girl of Steel is getting her own solo movie, which will be based on Tom King's recent DC run. Really recent DC run that I don't think either Roddykat nor myself read, as he is an architect of the project as well. While Superman was raised on Earth with kind parents, Supergirl stayed on a piece of Krypton that drifted off. Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow will explore her life as she was forced to see many loved ones die tragically. Next and last in terms of the movies is Swamp Thing. DC Studios is working to make your heart sing on a movie that explores the dark origin story of Swamp Thing. In terms of television shows, the first one up is Creature Commandos. Again.
Ooh. I was about to say, we kind of breeze through these next few because, yeah.
All right. This was the only animated series announced. That this is my version of breezing through. This was the only animated series announced as part of the slate. Gunn has already written 7 episodes for the series. Creature Commandos will center Rick Flag Sr., who's set to appear elsewhere in live action, portrayed by his voice actor, Nina Mazursky. Dr. Phosphorus, Eric Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, who's the protagonist, G.I. Robot, and Weasel. Next up is Waller. The previously announced Amanda Waller spinoff series is moving forward with Viola Davis still set to star. The show will take place between Peacemaker seasons 1 and 2. This is because Gunn does not have time for Peacemaker right now. Doom Patrol executive producer Jeremy Carver and Watchmen scribe Crystal Henry are heading up the series. Next up is Lanterns. While it's unclear if this is meant to be Greg Berlanti's Green Lantern TV show, Lanterns will center on Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. According to DC Studios, it's a detective mystery with the Green Lantern serving as super cops on Precinct Earth. Lanterns will lead into an overall story about an ancient horror while weaving between movies and DC TV shows. Next up is Paradise Lost. This is the toughest concept. This is a Wonder Woman prequel series in the style of Game of Thrones, focusing on the origin of Themyscira before Diana Prince's time. Paradise Lost will explore how the political game that is played on Themyscira and what a society of women do in order to gain power. Last but not least is Booster Gold, a series focusing on the future tech superhero with imposter syndrome is in the works. DC Studios are currently speaking to an unspecified actor to play the titular role, and that is it so far from DC Studios. I have one comment. The funniest thing I heard about all of these projects was from Van Lathan on the Ringerverse. He said something along the lines of, well, if they really did Paradise Lost, Themyscira story, exactly like they did Game of Thrones, everyone would watch it.
So which is why I was just, yeah,
I when I heard that, I think I stopped on the street and just started laughing.
Yeah, they're too cowardly to do that. But anyway, I was going to go back on what you was going to say and what you said about it initially, and that honestly it's the easiest one to do because of that. But because Game of Thrones is already out there, and the people have, there's always been other things, including another version of Game of Thrones that kind of that's kind of done that. So no, that's pretty much the easiest one out of this one. And also the video, which I think clocks in like about 5 or 6 minutes, was probably still shorter than 1870 reading off all of those things. I don't know. Sure, that's the only thing I can say about it right now. Honestly, Agent 70 had said something about the Creature Commandos earlier, and I'm like, yeah, I don't understand that one either.
Yep.
But, some of these other ones, like I said, I'm sure we're closer to some of these other ones coming about. We'll have more to talk about. And the whole gods and monsters things, I'm surprised they didn't go anywhere around that the animated series. I mean, that animated movie that they did. But I guess they're trying to get away from that. The only thing I can actually say, so we can go ahead and move on, is that I know Gunn said in the video that stuff like the Batman is pretty much shuffled into the Elsewheres category, while Flash and Shazam are pretty much still kind of in the mainline continuity. In fact, Flash is pretty much the thing that's going to kickstart that. There was something he also said in in that video about the Flash that kind of made me bristle, but we've already talked about the ongoings with that Flash movie. So yeah, just go back on our earlier shows on that stuff. Ant-Man, The Flash, and Fast X among Super Bowl the next Super Bowl's trailers, apparently. So according to Deadline, it seems that major studios will be sharing the best of what they have uh, in their upcoming release slate during the matchup between Kansas City Chiefs and Philadelphia Eagles. Sports ball. Like I said, like I said, the Flash gonna have all of those movies that I just mentioned, which most of which are coming up relatively soon, are going to have trailers coming up, and that's next week. So if you, like me, look for the trailers that come out of the Super Bowl rather than the Super Bowl itself, I guess you got something to look forward to. Except for I'm not probably going to be watching any of the trailers that come out of there because I just want movies, with the exception of Flash, which I don't care about it at all. Actually, I take that back. That Fast X movie, I would probably catch another trailer of that.
Yeah, family. All
Right,
right. Next
exactly.
up, Walking Dead star Jeffrey Dean Morgan recently teased Invincible fans ahead of season 2 of the Prime Video animated series. He sparked speculation that he's joining the show's cast by sharing a photo of himself purchasing 2 Invincible comic book compendiums on Instagram. Notably, the compendiums are the second and third in the series, which suggests that Morgan is specifically brushing up on Invincible plot points set to be adapted post season 1. Okay.
Yeah. Curious. Speaking of Fast X, Vin Diesel reveals first look at Jason Momoa's character. And I think there was on an Instagram post where they have them bumping fists together. Again, family. And
I was
actually,
wondering, did you skip that criminal article?
what criminal? Or did I?
It's all right. I'll circle back to it. Criminal series based on Ed
Oh,
Brubaker.
yeah, no, I think I did.
That's all right. Finish yours. I'll come back to this one. Go ahead.
Because I had the other one in the wrong place. Anyway, and as confirmed in this Instagram post, also 2 weeks away from the Fast X trailer launch, which can confirm the fact that there's going to be a trailer during the Super Bowl. Family. Next up,
Criminal series based on Ed Brubaker's comic books in works at Amazon Studios. This is as reported by Deadline. This is an exclusive. So details are still scarce, but the project, written by Brubaker, who serves as executive producer and showrunner, is described as an interlocking universe of crime stories based on his award-winning comics. And that's pretty cool that it's over at Amazon. So they will be more than likely willing to take chances a la Invincible and The Boys.
yeah, they can definitely go a little harder, or they will probably go a little harder because of those. Now we're going to go into the anime corner. Cowboy Bebop creator Shinichiro Watanabe reveals Cowboy Bebop's original title, which was Nagarabashi Bebop, or Shooting Star Bebop, but they ended up not able to use it because of a trademark issue, and now we have, and then they ended up with the eponymous name that we all know and love. I believe also, I don't know if this article or not, but I think in that same interview, it was said that Watanabe watched like a scene of that Cowboy Bebop Netflix thing and turned it off for for reasons. I didn't put that article in the show notes because wasn't necessary, but the fact that that was the case kind of tells you a lot. Can tell you a lot. Next up,
Attack on Titan and Spy X Family creators share details of a friendly rivalry. That's pretty cool. So Attack on Titan creator Hajime Isayama has an interesting rivalry with a fellow mangaka, as reported by comicbook.com. Isayama revealed his ongoing sports feud with Spy X Family creator Tatsuya Endo. I don't know if it's an interesting anecdote, and I don't know if you know the mangas of Blue Lock and Spy X Family, said Isayama. In fact, their authors are former assistants of mine who worked on Attack on Titan. Tatsuya Endo, the author of Spy X Family, is my great rival in ping pong. Okay. Typically, Endo bests the Attack on Titan creator in ping pong matches, but Isayama occasionally scores a victory. Okay.
I thought that was cute. That's why I had to put this in there.
That's funny.
Crunchyroll has quietly launched Gundam: The Witch from Mercury's English dub. I know some dub resistant folks don't care, but nevertheless, it is a thing for those who are. So starting from episode 0, they have it dubbed in English in a separate tab on the series' main page on Crunchyroll. It says here it's likely unknown if this is the herald of a weekly release covering the 12 episodes of season 1, or if, like Prologue itself, this is just a taste for the eventual dub. I don't know if it has the. It doesn't. Okay, I was about to say if it had the dub credits, but I wasn't gonna read it anyway. Next up.
All right, so we're switching over to the manga corner. All right, Mobile Suit Gundam: The Witch from Mercury side story manga is set to launch in the spring. Let's see, is there a date? I gotta open the article. Grr. Spring. Need a date. No, it doesn't say.
Date. Yeah, no date outside of spring.
Yeah, it's all right.
My Hero Academia theory imagines an unusual armistice to the war. This is spoilers for the latest chapter or one of the latest chapters of the My Hero manga. I won't really go into it regardless. But apparently some characters make their return, but possibly switching sides, it looks like. You can check that out if you haven't read up on it yourself, if you are interested. Next up.
All righty. McFarlane Toys has introduced a classic Robin figure as an exclusive release, which is kind of sucktastic. So it's going to be a McFarlane Toys online store exclusive. So that means you don't have to hunt for it, but you will have to look for it. The pre-order is about to launch on February 7th, that is. It's actually a pretty cool looking figure. I'm still not so keen on the 7-inch scale of these McFarlane DC figures. They look a little too elongated for my taste, but I like the way this one looks.
Well, we'll see if that holds out when they actually do Elongated Man.
Oh, goodness gracious. Where is it?
Wizards of the Coast folds on basically they backtrack on what they said about the open gaming license, because people were up in arms and was probably storming the gate because of it. They didn't want to lose sales. Likely that is me editorializing, but nevertheless, so everything stands the way where the things are, and they are not taking their ball and going home, and all seems to be well for now on the Dungeons and Next up.
Oh, in sad news, Hasbro is set to cut 15% of employees after disappointing holiday sales. So, the company confirmed in a news press release that 15% of their global workforce will be cut throughout the next year, roughly 1,000 jobs in total. Lackluster sales from the holiday season of 2022 are the cause, with sales reportedly down as much as 17% year over year, with toy sales falling, yet with Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering brands actually rising in sales. So yeah, you know what? Is this my fault since I cut back on my Marvel Legends collecting? I'm sorry, Hasbro employee.
No. I'm gonna say no, because there's been a lot of we've talked about at least one or two, but there's been a lot of higher profile or as high profile job cuts lately, like Microsoft.
Right, but this one
Amazon.
cuts close to home. Hits close to home because of how often we talk about Hasbro products.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure you not buying them is not not
right. I obviously was saying that.
I know you were,
but I feel like it's also emblematic of like the hurdles that the company's dealing with, like a little bit of action figure collecting fatigue.
Right.
Also, a certain group of a certain, let's say, population of collectors who probably in the same cohort as myself and yourself that are, have hit a point where they've gotten a lot of the characters that they want
Yeah, totally. I
and
mean,
are
yeah,
not
like
necessarily enthusiastic about the latest releases. So
right.
that's why I mentioned that. That's why I kind of, said what I said tongue in cheek, but with an element of truth in that.
Yeah, but like yeah, right. At the same time, like I don't know. Sometimes when they say disappointing holiday sales or anything like that, that just means that they didn't get what they projected they wanted, but they still got a lot. I feel like again, I don't have any numbers. I don't know nor any kind of knowledge whatsoever. I feel like Hasbro probably made some numbers somewhere, if not in one or two licenses elsewhere. I feel like they did make a bunch of money. So and like so we there's been a lot of specifically in tech, there's been a lot of uh flashing of jobs for reasons they give that may or may not have anything to do with anything necessarily actual. Like they're still getting money, but they're just getting rid of folks for reasons for their own bottom line and not necessarily because they necessarily in some cases. But that's just me editorializing. Like I said, I don't know any numbers or anything else. It is sad to see people losing their jobs, believe me. Um, so that is a whole thing. Um, Star Wars Jedi Survivor deal offers the game for quote unquote free, and the air quotes were up because basically, hey, you buy a graphics card, you get the game, which is a standard practice. It happens more often than not. So this is not a new thing, but this is just like if you want that game, which has been pushed back 6 weeks, by the way. This is the new Jedi Star Wars game that is coming out later this. Um, and you're in the market for a new graphics card. Hey, you might want to look into it. So apparently the offer is for the AMD Ryzen 7000 series game bundle, which is only available up until April 1st, 2023. And again, like I said, the game got pushed a little bit, so I'm sure you will get the voucher for that game when it does release. You can get your graphics card now, which is probably by in 12, 15 versions of the game for the same price, if not more. But hey, like I said, if you need a new graphics card and want the game, then you have your option. Next up.
All right, so there is a new live action trailer for Marvel's Spider-Man 2, which has appeared online. Okay. In a video that began circulating on the internet, a new commercial for Marvel Spider-Man 2 was found to have started airing. The trailer sees real life actors highlighting some criminals that have been webbed up in New York City before both Spider-Man and Miles Morales are shown swinging away. The video then ends by advertising that PS5 consoles are in stock now, which is something that Sony has been promoting much more heavily recently as the availability of the hardware has improved. I've mentioned it to Roddykat before. I happened to be on foot in Manhattan and walked into a GameStop, and lo and behold, they had PS5s in stock, and I started chuckling. I was like, "Huh, just maybe," but I fought the temptation.
Right. And anecdotally, which is actually kind of funny because my brother went into, I think he was in either in a Costco or Sam's, one or two, and saw they had a display full of PS5s there, and he was like, should I, and the price, which was better than the price I got mine for, I can safely say. And he was like, should I get it or not? And so we kind of was going with that. So yeah, they're definitely out there, and they've been trying to get stuff into the pipeline for reasons, not the least of which is that they have a new VR gear that is shortly coming out too, so they want consoles to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
But also they've been getting stuff back into the pipeline, so that anybody wants them and get them. But I also speculated that, well, it's far enough in the cycle now where they're trying to get rid of that old stock so they can put the new ones out there. Because we're probably about 4 or 5 years in at this point. And that's where usually when they start slimming stuff down. So they're trying to get rid of the old stock. Just saying. But you can finally battle your friends in Marvel Snap. So yeah, though we talked about the battle mode that they're putting into the game, and mode is in now, which I haven't had a chance to check out. But basically, battle mode is when you can pretty much instead of randomly getting set up with a match, you can actually match up with people you know on the game, and it's cross-platform, so you can match with any of your friends wherever they are. It's a good game. And I think even Tim's been playing it off and on, which is I was slightly surprised to see, but I guess he's been liking it. But yeah, there you go, folks. That mode's out there. Have at it. Next up.
So you did the Snap one?
Yes.
All right. The Marvel Multiverse role-playing game expands with the X-Men. Fans will soon be able to put the power of the Marvel Universe in their own hands. In addition to the previously announced core rulebook and adventure book, RPG players can also look forward to a brand new X-Men source book coming in 2024. Okay. Let's see. You can get the new Marvel Multiverse role-playing game on sale August 2nd, 2023, and it's available for pre-order now. You'll next be able to get the Cataclysm of Kang adventure book coming late 2023. And as I said, you'll be able to get the X-Men source book coming in 2024.
I guess this marks the actual release date, or the actual release date, because it was supposedly coming out in July of this year, but I guess but now they're according to this is saying it's August.
That's all right. It's a month. It's not 6 months. It's not another year.
Exactly. Well, and the fact is that they've been going headlong with the PlayStation play testing, and kind of finalizing the rules. So I don't think anybody was really expecting it to come out when they initially said it was. So just surprising it's as short as it is. So, but unless they change it again. Royal Mail marks X-Men's 60th anniversary with a special stamp set, which I believe you can get now if you live in London. So if you know anybody that lives in London can get you a set, and you're that much of an X-Men fan, hey, go for it. It says here that the 17 steps stamp set will feature some of the most popular characters from the Marvel comic series. That was first published in 1963. The main set of stamps was created by British comic book artist Mike McCone, and includes original members Professor X, Cyclops, Angel, Iceman, Beast, Jean Grey of the original 5. Other favorite characters: Wolverine, Kitty Pryde, Colossus, Jubilee, Jean Grey, Storm, Rogue, also featuring the collection. I was about to say, how you gonna have the original 5 and not have Jean up in this spot? But yeah, there's also an additional 5 set that's miniature sheets and with some other characters from their Rogues Gallery, or formerly of their Rogues Gallery, I guess I should say at this point. Next up.
Okay, so this is a story that has spoilers for Exterminators number 5, which is something that came out last week, and I think Roddykat read it.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently in this issue, Jubilee goes atomic level.
Yes, I only put this story in here so that I could say she bombed atomically.
Oh no, Socrates hypotheses and something about mockeries. Okay,
exactly. But yeah, go check out Exterminators. That miniseries was pretty good. So we know that Colin Kelly and Jansen Lansing's are already busy with projects, but we also know that they have the Guardians of the Galaxy book coming up, and apparently they sat down with CBR to discuss the new series, which apparently, they were asked about the ending from the previous run from Al Ewing, and said that they basically said that Lansing explained to CBR that he and Kelly discussed their series with Ewing to quote unquote make sure there's no disrespect implied with what they had in mind. So basically it's them saying that they were not trying to step on the ending that it was given them. But also we've seen this before in Spider-Man, kind of wherein the last run of Amazing Spider-Man ended happily, and then we got what we got now, and still haven't gotten explained on it. Hopefully, they're going to be a little bit better with explaining how they got to this point in the Guardians series, but we'll see. Next up,
Emma Frost's sinister form is her coolest design yet. There's some non-objective writing right there. Acclaimed artist Mark Brooks has revealed his sinister Emma Frost variant cover for Immoral X-Men #1, giving the White Queen a gorgeous new look. Okay. I mean, it's Emma Frost with a diamond on her head. Okay.
right, and Sinister's cape. So,
Yeah. I mean, okay.
it's not outside the realm of what something she would have probably rocked anyway.
Right. The sinister cape in a different color. So I don't know. Whatever, man.
Yeah, hey, it is what it is. Marvel announces X-Men Before the Fall prequels for a Fall of X event. There's new details on a set of 4 one-shots that will lead directly into the next era of X-Men comics. Fall of X was first announced at New York Comic Con and follows the building blocks laid out by Jonathan Hickman in House of X, Powers of X. The next chapter in the Krakoa era comes after Marvel's Merry Mutants secluded themselves on the sovereign island nation of Krakoa, and goes to blah 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 blah. So the titles will run between May and July and will tie up long simmering plot lines, reintroduce major players, and put all the pieces in place for the dramatic events of the third Hellfire Gala, which will also reveal the results of this year's X-Men votes, which actually is the next story.
Right. So you have 10 minutes left to cast your vote.
If you're watching live.
Right. If you are watching live, if not, guess what? You are asked out. But guess what? You can still vote for that last member of the lead hero team of X-Men. And I am putting my vote in right now. You can vote between Cannonball, Dazzler, Frenzy, Jubilation, Lee, Juggernaut, and Prodigy. And I am placing my vote as we speak, folks.
I'm curious, but I'll ask you afterwards who you voted for. Next up, though, Swamp Mean meets RoboCop in a new enviro dystopian thriller called Junk Rabbit. Image Comics has a new comic book from fan favorite creator Jimmy Robertson called Junk Rabbit. The new ongoing series will launch on April 5th in comic book stores and digitally. It says here, in Junk Rabbit, a new hero rises from the heaps of consumer waste, mass homelessness, and devastating climate change. Some call the hero a myth, an urban legend, but others know that it's just the Junk Rabbit come to life, and now it's on a bloody path of revenge against those who created it.
Mm-hmm.
So if that sounds interesting to you, have at it. April 5th. Next up.
Mm-hmm. Hold on. I'm trying to place my vote. I don't know if I'm getting it done right.
Oh, I think it'll tell you once you vote, it'll be like, all right, cool. So
yeah, I'm having trouble. It must be because it's getting close to midnight.
Possible. Are you doing it on Chrome or are you doing it on?
I am in Chrome.
But sometimes it might be a Chrome issue, so I would try another. Got it.
Yeah, I was about to say I just opened.
But chances are you're probably writing this close to.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to open in Firefox because I still have more than 5 minutes, so that's why it's like that's a little. I was about to say that's a little whack, Like I would understand if it was like 2 minutes before.
Do you want me to go ahead and get this last one then? Since
how many more do we have?
This is the last one.
Oh no, take it, please.
Fair Square adds Alien books to its catalog, and kicking off with Ariel Olivetti art book and a horror anthology. So Fair Square Comics is helmed by former Spider-Man noir writer and Humanoids editor Fabrice Zabalski, which has entered a multi-year agreement with the comic studio Alien Books, under which Fair Square will include Alien titles in their catalog for distribution by both Diamond Comics distributors and Diamond Book distributors. Beautiful quote. The beautiful thing about Alien books is that their catalog complements ours, Sapolsky said in a statement accompanying the announcement. They're coming with incredible talents and genres such as horror, sci-fi, art, books, and Western that we are not offering. This partnership is a no-brainer. And the first scheduled title is the aforementioned Art of Ariel Olivetti, showcasing the comics art of the Argentinian creator who spent 25 years as an artist for Marvel, DC, Boom, and others. The book was crowdfunded on Kickstarter and pretty much made it and thing. And it's coming out April 18th of this year with an MSRP of $24.99. There's also a horror anthology coming out on April 12th. And yeah, that's it. And some other stuff to come. It says here that Fair Square was founded in 2019 that to emphasize comics by underrepresented groups such as immigrants and minorities. Has a color-coded system to indicate creator rights. Green titles are owned or co-owned by Foursquare. I guess that's supposed to be Fair Square. Foursquare is a different thing. Purple graphic novels are creator owned. Blue indicates products licensed from other publishers for English language distribution. Add a fourth color category, gold, for Alien Books titles. That's a neat way to go about it. Oh. And that is the end of the news for tonight. And I'm assuming Agent 70 has gotten his vote in.
No, it's my last chance. My last chance. Oh, come on, let me vote. You know, it's. I was about to say, I forget the, don't disenfranchise me. That's the word.
Okay.
Disenfranchise is to take away the right to vote.
Yes, I know. I know what it is, but
I'm just saying, like, that's, let's be real technical here. Don't disenfranchise me.
I don't think that's what they're doing, but yes, it is a bummer. So.
That is what they're doing.
Yes, that last minute voting always goes well.
It is what they're doing. Don't disenfranchise me.
Yeah, I would have to cut this out too because would have had.
That's so funny. Fine. Wink, your personalized wine club. Wink has a world of wine delivered right to your door. From rosé to cabernet to torrente, Wink has over 100 styles of wine to discover. Ever try an orange wine? Wink connects you to a world of exclusive wines tailored to your taste and delivered directly to your door. Wink delivers 4 bottles of wine to you every month with free shipping. You can pick your own bottles or let Wink choose and match to your taste. It doesn't cost a thing to become a member, and you can skip or cancel anytime. And now the listeners of the Comic Book Chronicles can enjoy an exclusive discount of $20 off your first order. To place your first order with $20 off and to help keep our show free for you, go to our network website at cspn.us/wink. That's cspn.us/WINC. Wink wines through CSPN. Do it today.
All right, folks. That is it for our show. Oh, sorry.
All right. I'm trying to vote, folks. I'm being disenfranchised.
Well, and I'm trying to end this thing before OBS wraps up. So, that being said, hey, we got through it, folks. Some way, shape, or form, you will have a program out, even if you don't know what I mean by this after the fact. If you're a hip hop fan, there's a PBS special for Fight the Power that hopefully you have been able to check out, but it's still running. There was that whole
not yet. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I got it taped, but I haven't actually watched it. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And then there was that Schoolhouse Rock special that is actually on Disney Plus now. If you missed it, the live airing of it, so you got some things to check out. But we still got another show to do before we go on Movie Protocol, more Bad Batch, and more other things. So with that, this has been the Comic Book Chronicles. I have been Roddykat. You can find me at Roddykat on Twitter. You can find me at News Nerds Need on Twitter. You can find me at CBCaps on Instagram. Agent_70 on Twitter and Instagram. PCN_dirt on Twitter. Pop Culture Net on Twitter. PopCultureNetwork.com. All his umbrella sites they're in, and somewhere on Spotify with his music. Tim, DOGG98 on Twitter, CB Chron on Twitter, which is the Comic Book Chronicles Twitter account. The Click Nation, that's TheKliqnation, theclicknation.com. And of course, Tim is over at comicbook.com, where he's over there writing his face off. Tim Adams, go check out his work. You can find this here podcast on the Coastal Podcast Network, that's ESPN.us.
Do it today.
You can also find us on your podcast personal place of choice, whether it be Google Play, Apple iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the Coastal Podcast Network's SoundCloud page. Find us recording every Thursday night, normally 9:30-ish p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Click Nation's YouTube account. That's youtube.com/theclicknation and twitch.tv/Comic Book Chronicles. Hit that. And that, folks, is the show for tonight. Hopefully we'll have a better show and more complete show next week. Complete as in not in peace. This has been the Comic Book Chronicles. Peace.
Peace one. And knowing is half the battle.